Alright. 5, 4, 3, 2... Oh, shit. Sorry. Oh, dear. Okay, hold on. 4, 3, 2, 1. Slash wave. Hi guys, and welcome to another dungeon video. Today we're doing the Bloodstone caves, but we're going to be kicking the video off by reading our master dungeon guide. Oh, look at how full my inventory's getting again. It's because last dungeon I was opening all those chests. I don't know if you noticed. I usually don't do it because I liked to keep my title at like the 10,000 once it was finished, but I still need to identify gold, so I've just started doing it since I've got so many lockpicks from doing the series. But it's filling my inventory up. Oh well, we should be okay. But yeah, so the book says. Last time we did the Bog Root Grace, which was very, very cool. You got 2 quests you could do. You could sort of make a choice. Very, very awesome little quest there. Bog Root Grace, a complex of caverns just outside Sparkfly Swamp, is a war zone. The caverns are home to 2 frogman tribes, the Ophir and the Gokir. The habitats of these tribes collided due to some unfortunate miscalculation. I love how it's got that written exactly the same as the Asura said it before, during an Asuran digging expedition, forcing the antagonist creatures uncomfortably close to each other. Both groups now vie for dominance, with each side supported by 1 of 2 Asuran observers. We were asked to choose a side in this interclan war and bring an end to the bloodshed for the sake of progress, of course. Okay, so yeah, that's quite weirdly written actually, because it makes it sound like the conflict isn't really over because it's got present tense there. I don't know, I always feel like these things are a little bit weirdly or a little bit poorly written, dare I say it. But yeah, okay, so what we're going to do is go to Gad's encampment. What I really want to do is go to the Henge of Denravi. Somebody just started whispering me. Oh, I haven't even been there on this character. Somebody just started whispering me saying that the Henge of Denravi's packed at the moment because of something called Family Feud. I don't know, I've never heard of it before, but okay, so we'll get... Yes, everybody has been to Gads. I was so scared for a moment there. Letting everybody even ticked. You guys are awesome. I reckon that sometimes you can just tell if a team's going to do very well, and I think that's probably quite a good sign. But yeah, okay, so let's do it. We're going to the Bloodstone caves. This dungeon is just going to take us through the dungeon we already saw in the main storyline. It's quite an easy, laid-back, simple dungeon, I must say. I think, we get the quest from Bartholos, don't we?
Still here.
No, that's the one where you unlock Hader. Is it Searing? I think it is. I think it's Crystal Method you've got to do. We'll see. I'll judge it by how much dialogue there is here. Oi, oi, oi. We could do all of these quests at once, actually. So you've returned for more punishment, Matt. Very good. Guess what? One of our scouts barely escaped the Bloodstone Caves with his life, but he brought back a tale of a fierce, ornery Etin, more fearsome than anything we've yet slain. It was predictably gathering spectral crystals. I'm not sure what has addicted these lumbering hulks to the magic crystals, but there's no doubt in my mind it's tied to the Bloodstone. They must be ours. Deal this Etin a deadly blow and bring us what is ours. Are you prepared to risk life and looks for us this one last time? So this is the one, if you remember in the Eye of the North Let's Play, there's like 2 quests that make you go in there on different floors. You can just do all of these quests at once, just gathering up the crystals and stuff, which is pretty cool. So I'm just going to make sure everyone's got the quest, and for some reason somebody just quit out of the team. In fact, what the hell's going on here? Oh my god, what? Is there some event? Look at this. Are they all from a guild or something? That's amazing. They're all around the campfire. Ah, okay, alright. Give me a second, guys, to see if I can get this person back. This is absolutely brilliant. What the hell? Oh, I love it when games get a little bit older and just random stuff like this happens every now and then. They're all from an alliance. Look, a lot of them are from BOS, some of them are from DOH. This is not what this video is supposed to be about, but okay. Embrace the random crap that happens while filming. Why not? Well, okay, that was mad, and the entire time this alliance was literally just sat here dancing around this fire. We had 2 people DC, but it's okay. We're up and ready. Okay. Alright, brilliant. Okay, the B team even turned up. Literally, the other group that formed, like, with the surplus players that formed, they just sort of zoned into Gad's encampment, and we're just all stood around like lemons waiting to see what's going to happen. But there we go. Okay, so we're back out into Sparkfly Swamp. I will cut it. I'm going to be cutting so much of this crap here. I'm going to cut it until we're just outside the Bloodstone Caverns there, and we'll see what happens. We'll go into the dungeon, and I'll hand you over to my past self. Actually, you know what? I'll just hand you over now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the dungeon, and wish us luck. So let's do it. Yeah, wish me a luck indeed. Actually, we don't really need the luck. It was quite, as I said actually already, though, it was quite an easy dungeon. Actually, if you look on screen right now, a word of warning to everyone, don't click the inscription. I actually said this in the Let's Play as well, but don't click the inscription stone. Don't click that, because that'll take you into the mission. What you want to do is just, and it might seem pointless, because the door will be shut, and you'll be like, well, there's no green exclamation mark. What the hell? What am I supposed to do? Well, this is actually one of those rare occasions on Guild Wars where something happens just from you being near something, rather than having to click someone or talk to someone. Just walk near the door and it will automatically open and admit you into the cave, and then that is through doing that you can actually go through the dungeon. If you remember also what I said in the Let's Play, I wasn't very clear about that just now in the intro. There are actually 3 different quests, right? You've got the dungeon quest, but then there's a couple of other ones as well, like Killer Netting in here. I actually showed that one in the Let's Play, and there's one that you can do on floor 2, which we actually failed to complete when we were going through this dungeon. I guess we skipped past that boss mob, but in any case, there's quite a few little quests you can do here. The 2 of them, they're really not that important. They're really weird side quests for Eye of the North, because Eye of the North had quite good rewards and quite a lot of sort of thought gone into a lot of its side quests. I've got to say they were all quite good, but these 2 really just seem to be sort of slapped in there in the middle of a dungeon. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was another reason to encourage players to go into a dungeon but not feel like it's going to be really hard like most dungeons are. I don't know, but in any case, we go through those while we're doing this, and yeah. Also, I do have to apologise actually for the end of the last video, at the end of Bog Roots. I know it ended really abruptly. It's not really something I thought that was going to happen. I thought I had like 30 minutes to do post commentary, so I was like, oh, you know what, cool, alright, I could just go through this this Charr thing. And then all of a sudden I looked over as I was reading this blog post. I've got it open here at the moment. As I was reading through, I looked over at Audacity and I was like, oh, holy shit, it's 30 minutes, I've got to quickly wrap this up. And when it came back to editing, I think I only had like 20 minutes left, only about that. So I actually had to do something quite funny there, really, which I never thought I'd have to do. When we started the dungeon series, when we started it, I was, as you probably know, I was speeding the dungeons up massively to try and squeeze them into just one video, right? And everyone was like, oh no, look, it's too sped up, there's too much of a disconnect there. So I was like, oh, you know what, we'll do it in 2 videos. So but I still typically speed them up, at least a bit. I still speed them up, but I actually in Bog Roots ended up slowing down. So you might have noticed it, some of those last clips had to slow them down just so that all the commentary would fit in, and then just sort of, and then kind of slapped on that kind of end there. I mean, I hope you're not too annoyed about that. If you actually looked, I mean, you guys who will have read the ending dialogue, there's really not much there. They basically just say thank you for helping, and that's about it. So yeah, anyway, that's how that one ended, and yeah, we were in the middle of this Charr article, so I guess we can read this one out. And in fact, we ended actually, didn't we, on an audio blog. It's now Friday for me. It's Friday. I'll hold my hands up in a minute. I did that commentary on like Tuesday, so I actually can't remember what this military mindset dialogue was like. So I'm gonna listen to it. Don't know whether I'll play it for you guys as well, but I'll see you guys in a second for us continuing on. Okay, here we go. I kind of lost my place there. Read about 2 paragraphs and played another audio blog, and then I was like, this sounds really familiar to me. I think I'm reading out what I've already read. Yeah. Okay, so we were actually. Excuse that. We were at Living for the City. Okay, so I'm going to listen to this and see where we were.
Those guys in the guard don't miss much. We don't miss anything.
You want some greens with that?
What for?
I need a blade. A better blade.
I have one, just for you. Honed from the finest steel, forged from the darkest iron. It screams for souls, and you must wield it.
Now that's what I want. Not just a weapon. A legend.
Step inside, soldier. You're ready to be a hero.
What's your problem? I'm just having a little fun.
When it disrupts my city, your fun is my problem.
I wonder what fun he's talking about there. What kind of fun can you have at the Black Citadel, a giant industrial estate? I don't know. What I really like about that one actually is that it screams for souls bit. That's so cool. It always makes me think of there's a weapon set in Guild Wars 2, if you're not aware, that and this is quite cool actually, because this is kind of one of those things I really wanted. They haven't done everything that I wanted them to do, but to do with the day and night cycle, right? And basically there's a weapon set that the day and night cycle actually affects. So at night they have lifesteal and stuff, and they kind of look all blue, and they look like, I don't know, it kind of conjures the image for me that they've kind of got souls going around them. But in any case, that's what that line always makes me think of. But okay, so we get a bit of concept art here of I assume this is just another part of the Black Citadel. I have no idea where or whether that even translates into game somewhere. But it's pretty cool. There's lots of cogs and stuff, you know, very typical kind of Machina style concept art, which you constantly see coming out of ArenaNet for Guild Wars 2. But and the next section is called Old Foes. So currently, the most pressing of these enemies... Wait, what enemies? Okay, well, the enemies of the Charr are the 2 stubborn relics of the past that refuse to die. So the first one is the Flame Legion, and the second one are the restless ghosts of Ascalonian humans who still haunt the ruins of their former kingdom. And in fact, on this note actually, you can really learn quite a lot about this without even... basically what we had was the movement of the world, where we learned about this thing called the Foe Fire, right? Which is this huge thing in Ascalon, absolutely huge. It kind of makes Adelburn important to the story. Like, if the faux fire wasn't introduced to the storyline, the whole time I was let's playing Prophecies, and partly while we were in War and Cry as well, because he kind of came to the story again there a bit, I would have been like, Adalbert is such a minor, crappy character, he has no relevance to anything. However, he genuinely does, and it's because of this thing called the faux fire, and originally we'd only been able to read about it in the Movement of the World. It was mentioned quite a lot in Ghost of Ascalon, but we didn't really know that much more about it at that point. But there's actually now a cutscene that's been released, a cutscene that is the intro for the Ascalonian Catacombs dungeon in Guild Wars 2, and you basically get to see the faux fire in person, which is really, really cool. So there'll be a link to that in the description, you can be sure about that. So the Flame Legion has been broken, but it still exists, and it still seeks to reclaim the power it once had through guile, subterfuge, and magic. So the Flame Legion, of course, you know, Guild Wars 1, if you've seen any thing of Guild Wars 1, you've probably met the Flame Legion. It gives the impression, and I don't personally believe it, some people will argue the case, it gives the impression that pretty much all the Charr we fight are Flame Legion Charr in Guild Wars 1. I don't necessarily believe that, but there were a hell of a lot of Flame Legion Charr. They were kind of the dominant people during Guild Wars 1's timeline. They were the ones that forced them all to worship the Titans, and you learn quite a lot about how the Flame Legion sort of suppressed the female Charr and stuff like that, which is a pretty cool story. But yeah, they were broken. They're now actually mockingly called the Gold Legion, which it doesn't look like this blog post mentions, which is such a shame. The Charr now, because they've been broken, call them the Gold Legion instead of the Flame Legion, because gold is such a malleable metal, which I think is so cool. So it's actually like a derogatory term for them. Very, very awesome. But they still exist, they're still about, there will be dynamic events to do with them. I'm hoping some interesting personal story stuff to do with them. I mean, they were the original enemy, the original enemies. Think about it, what did Guild Wars 1 open with? A freaking cutscene of us fighting them. So, you know, I think they should have at least some spot in the limelight of Guild Wars 2 at some point, and I reckon the personal story is a great place to put them. But I'm not holding my breath, I can imagine. Because, I mean, where they've got so many things going on with Guild Wars 2 for every single race, they can't dedicate enough time to these things, which I don't know. This is why I'm always a bit upset that, and it's an MMO, so it kind of, you have to have it happen, really. I mean, Guild Wars 1 didn't do it. Guild Wars 1 didn't have multiple races. It did in the end have multiple starting places, and in that regard, I suppose you could say multiple storylines. But I don't know, I still prefer games where they, and I've already mentioned this quite a few times, but I still prefer games where they have just one storyline, because if they did that, you know, all the time that they spend making, for instance, let's say Charr was the only storyline they did, all the time they spent making Human, Asura, Silvari, all of that could all then be sort of infused into the main story, dealing with other minor things like the Gold Legion and stuff like this, and sort of shedding more light on them and making them more intriguing. But anyway, the Flame Legion has been broken, but it still exists, and it still seeks to reclaim the power it once had through guile, subterfuge, and magic. In the past, the Flame Legion worshipped nightmarishly powerful entities like the Titans in exchange for magical might. These days, the other legions keep a close eye on the Flame Legion to prevent them from unleashing any more otherworldly terrors in their lust for power. But that doesn't stop the Flame Legion from trying. The Flame... See, I reckon it'll be... Well, they already did it in Guild Wars 1, didn't they? When we got to Eye of the North, they said, oh, look, here's another cauldron of Cataclysm. Though I think that's a little bit ambiguous. Would they do that again in Guild Wars 2? Would the Flame Legion find another cauldron and threaten Ascalon once again? Even though, you know, now it's the Charr there, it's not necessarily... They're not allied with them. So I think that would actually be kind of cool, I suppose. Just to kind of see history repeat itself like that. Not, you know, not entirely, because we'd obviously stop it, but still, that would be quite... Or, you know, like a massive, expansive, dynamic event that, like, transforms an entire explorable area from, like, reasonable to, like, you know, post-Searing Ascalon. That'd be quite cool, but, you know, that's not going to happen. Anyway, the Flame Legion is so reviled that the average Charr distrusts magic users as a whole and expresses open hostility to the concept of worshipping any beings called gods. On this note, actually, in the bog routes I was talking about this a bit, and this is quite cool as well, how I said how ArenaNet kind of skew NPC numbers and variations of like their professions and their races and stuff. Well, I talked specifically about races before, how, you know, you won't find many human NPCs in the Black Citadel. Well, they do it for professions as well, so what you'll see in the Charr areas is a lot more engineers engineers than you'll find, you know, elementalists, for instance. You know, they definitely favour the sort of heavier armour people that use a lot less magic. So once again, while you might find many profession players, and there's nothing stopping you being a Charr that's an elementalist, in NPC terms, and probably in terms of who you interact with in the personal story, you're not going to get the feeling that the Charr particularly enjoy rolling those kind of... the Charr don't enjoy rolling those kind of characters in their MMOs. So yeah. To the modern Charr, beings such as Grenth, Lissa and Melandru are merely powerful entities and not gods, which I guess, you know, that's reasonable. That's the truth. They are just powerful entities. I guess there's a discrepancy there between how powerful you have to be before you call something a god, I suppose, right? And I guess it also depends whether you think that god actually gives a damn about you. And come Guild Wars 2, when the gods are barely around, I don't know whether, you know, let's assume for a second I'd be a human. I don't know whether I'd be one of those naysayers that we heard about in Divinity's Reach, of course, when we were doing that blog post, or whether I'd be sort of one of the devout followers. I really don't. Charr respect the forces such beings command, but would never kneel before them as if they were divine. So this next audio clip is called Old Folk.
Hunting dumb beasts is okay. Hunting Flame Legion scum is better.
I'd rather meet those traitors on the battlefield.
As if they would ever face us in open combat.
The Flame Legion worships Gaharin like a god.
And one of us gets to be a godslayer.
I'd rather kill Flame Legion traitors than dead Ascalonians.
If you live long enough, you'll get plenty of both.
Did he just mention someone called Gaharin? I don't recognise that name. Is that like the Imperator of the Gold Legion? That's quite interesting. See, this is the thing. Like Charr, seriously, I don't claim to know a lot about them. There are a lot of different ranks. There's like Gladiums. I think that's the lowest one. Where essentially, if you're a Charr without a warband, and I'm sure this will be mentioned in the next blog post, but if you're a Charr without a warband, you're known as a Gladium, and they're basically just spat upon because they're seen as complete waste of space to the Charr. But the leader of the Vigil is actually a Gladium, and there's all this interesting stuff. But there's loads of different ranks, absolutely loads. The Ghost of Ascalon. The ruins of Ascalon lie just outside the Black City's... Well, technically, you know, the Black Citadel is the ruins of Ascalon. It's the ruins of Rin. But I suppose that when they mention Ascalon here, they're talking about Ascalon City, which, by the way, there's an interesting story about that. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it. You've got Ascalon, and then you've got a town called Ascalon, right? You know, that's a little bit weird, maybe a little bit confusing. The reason why they're eponymous, they have the same name, is that Ascalon City originally, during the beta of Guild Wars, it had a different name. For a long time, ArenaNet just couldn't settle on a name for it. They were just calling it Ascalon City during development over and over and over. When the beta came around, it was actually called Kylo, K-H-Y-L-O, or something like that. And in fact, in game, you'll find some equipment, some weapons and stuff like that called like Kylo Blade or stuff like this. And it's actually a reference to what the main city used to be called. But at some point, obviously, after the beta and they went back into the normal game, they just changed it back to Ascalon City, and none of them could decide on a good name for it, so it ended up having the exact same name. I feel like that happened a lot with Guild Wars. It happened with them not naming the world differently to the continent. It happened with both of the Giants' basins, so now we just have to call one of them the Greater and the Lesser. It happened here with Ascalon. I'm sure it happened somewhere else as well that I'm missing. But it seemed to have happened a lot. I quite like it, actually. You know, I quite like that whole idea, and that's happening quite a lot in Guild Wars. It's one of those weird little things that I don't think you see a lot in other fantasy games. It just kind of helps Guild Wars as well to stand out a little bit, I suppose. But yeah, it's quite interesting anyway. The ruins of Ascalon lie just outside the Black Citadel's gates, apparently. This region is plagued by the ghosts of Ascalonian soldiers and citizens who died in King Adalbern's foe fire. These tragic spirits are locked into the fear and anger they felt at the moment of their deaths, doomed to hate the Charr and make war upon them for all eternity. The Iron Legion's troops' priority is to develop a weapon that will put these ghosts to rest permanently, for the legions cannot effectively expand into new territory if their central base is not secure. Right, so one interesting thing here as well, actually, so many interesting things here, is that these spirits in lore, it has been written into lore that they are angry at more than just the Charr, particularly in Ghost of Ascalon. You hear quite a bit about that, like when they get into Ascalon, it talks about why the ghosts are just sort of attacking anyone, because basically they're mindless, which isn't a very original story. But I do get the feeling that lore was written, hey, the ghosts of Ascalon still hate the Charr, and they're going to fight them for eternity. And then at some point, ArenaNet were like, later on down the line, oh shit, oh dear, actually this isn't going to work, because what happens if we have a dynamic event and 3 people are Charr and then a Sylvari comes along? What, is the Sylvari just not going to be attacked by the ghost? They all have to be attacked by the ghost. Okay, we'll shoehorn this into the story a little bit. So that doesn't work so well for me. I think it would have been much more interesting if the ghost only attacked the Charr. From a story perspective anyway, I totally understand it from a gameplay perspective. That might have been a bit more interesting, some more kind of cool stuff going on, you know, like Charr hiring mercenaries from other races to sort of infiltrate into Ascalon and try and destroy the ghost from within, and you know, maybe that could have opened up more routes. Or maybe the ghosts hate everyone except humans, and that's sort of one way that the treaty between Charr and humans first sparked and first began, because maybe there was some heroic human of past that actually the first time the Charr and humans ever really interacted is because the Charr had to come to us for help or something like that. That would have been cool. That would have been cool, but you know, it wasn't written into the story in the end. So anyway, so now we get an audio clip called "The Ghosts of Ascalon." Very nice, same name as the book.
I'm not afraid of ghosts.
You should be, Cub. They're not what they appear.
Ghosts aren't dangerous, especially not human ones.
Wait until dark. If you're still alive at daybreak, we'll see if you still think that way.
You know the only bad thing about killing ghosts?
No, boss.
They don't bleed.
Yes, I'm sure they don't bleed in mechanic terms either. I'm going to be a little bit clever there, just a little bit clever. Just straight after this bit, there's actually a bit of concept art of a ghost, which you will have seen on screen because I'm going to edit that on there while you're listening to the dialogue. So the next bit is called Charr Diplomacy. Smodor the Unflinching, this is the Iron Legion Imperator, has a different approach to dealing with the living humans of Tyria. Coexistence. Okay, so this is one of the big reasons why a treaty even exists between humans and Charr. I think ArenaNet paid a lot of attention and respect to this issue, because in Guild Wars 1 it was a huge thing. They didn't just like simply say, oh, we want everyone playing together, so we're just going to write in a treaty, and we're not going to do very much on the treaty because we don't think it's that important. No, they were really good. They gave it a lot of thought, and there were a lot of different aspects to how this treaty came about. Once again, Ghost of Ascalon. Anyway, so Smodor actually thinks that we should coexist, which is probably the only reason, one of the only reasons this treaty ever happened. Wisely, Smodor recognises that both the Human Kingdom and the Charr Nation have enough problems without refighting old wars, especially those that the Charr have already won. In his eyes, I'm sure you did win it. What's that? The place that you're inhabiting is full of ghosts and a complete dump? Sure, alright, you can have it. The human Queen Jenna also has something Smodor wants. The Claw of the Can-Ur, discovered by a team of adventurers in her employ. Yeah, see, this is all the book. It's all the book, people. I do recommend Ghost of Ascalon. That is the one that I said was one I particularly enjoyed. After a series of diplomatic overtures, Smodor and Jenna established a tentative ceasefire between their respective peoples and are working out the details of a fully fledged peace treaty. Certain factions within both societies cannot accept the concept of peace with their ancestral enemies and are determined to do everything they can to derail the treaty talks. Their actions fuel the distrust and hatred that still lingers between the two races, but human desperation and Charr discipline continue to move the process forward. So we heard a lot when we were doing the human side of things about how the humans kind of feel to do with this treaty, and all to do with Cordicus and how he's sort of standing against Jenna and all that kind of stuff. And now we kind of, I guess, get to see it from the Charr point of view as well. There's actually a really good line in Ghost of Ascalon, I think I've said this before, but there's a really good line that kind of, to me, really sums up really nicely how much distrust and hate there is between these two races. And it's like the first time Dougal, the main character from Ghost of Ascalon, sees a Charr, and there's this just brilliantly written line about how, like, just simply seeing the Charr just has all of the hairs on the back of his neck spark up, and he's just kind of really, really anxious and ready to fight if he has to. It's really, really good. But I think Arena have painted quite a good picture for there's a treaty, but these people still hate each other. We get another soundbite here called Charr Diplomacy.
Treaties with humans? Why? We are stronger. We should concede nothing.
So you agree with the Flame Legion?
I'll gut you for that.
I'll take that as a no.
Those human separatists are going to wreck the treaty talks.
Would that be so bad? We should wipe them out while we have the advantage.
I won't hear that talk in this camp, soldier. We have a duty to fulfill.
In some respect, actually, it makes it sound like the Charr are much more reasonable about especially consider what they just said is true, right? The Charr did pretty much win, right? The humans haven't really got a leg to stand on, and in some ways, it makes the Charr sound far more reasonable about the treaty than the humans, who are just being stubborn asses. The ones that don't like, well, I don't. See, there was that line as well in the human blog post where it was like, oh, come on, look, the faux fire, all that stuff, the searing, come on, that was all 200 years ago, just get over it. And, you know, a part of me is kind of like, do you know what, 200 years is quite, I don't know how that measures up in the real world, but I'm pretty sure people should have got over stuff like that after 200 years, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something really stupid and showing my ignorance there. Anyway, reporting for duty. This is the last section. It's just a couple of lines before a final soundbite with a nice bit of concept art there, which we actually saw really early on, actually, in Guild Wars development, really early on. I remember this image here that you're seeing here, this was one of the first ones we were speculating on, and people were talking about rifles. This was back when the original backlash happened. You know, there's been backlashes, I can kind of map them out for Guild Wars 2 development, and I think one of the first ones, honestly, was, oh, why are there guns in Guild Wars 2? And everybody freaking out, and this was like one of the things. But yeah, so, in fact, you'll recognise this is the shot from the first trailer. It's actually moving. That guy fires that gun. But yeah, so reporting for duty. So, straighten your spine, sharpen your claws, and stand at attention. The officers and soldiers of the Charr legions are looking for life-takers and heartbreakers to secure their next victory. Are you up to the challenge? Then fall in and get ready for action.
I feel like stabbing something until it dies. You with me?
Give me a moment to sharpen my blade.
I swear, I did it again. I'm such an idiot. Well, mind you, Bloodstone Caves is a really short dungeon, so yes, I spliced a bit of Jade Quarry footage in there. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The game went okay. We did win the game. I felt completely useless, though. I just pulled that up build completely out of my arse and just did whatever the hell I could. Some of the guys that playing against me were really, really stupid. Like, they just completely dived, like, huge shrines full of rangers, and I'd just have them pinned down and they can do anything. But anyway, there you go. That was that game. I didn't get any nice EOE bombs off. And here's the end of the quest. I once again spoke to Bartholos here at the end like an idiot, even though he wasn't the one who gave us the right quest. And we're going to speak, in fact, Bartholos is coming up in War and Cry a little bit more soon enough anyway, so yeah, we're going to speak to Searing.
How can I help?
And we actually, like I said, we missed one of the quests, but it doesn't really matter. We've got, there's only one of these rewards. We've actually read one of the rewards already. The Blade's Essence we missed. I think that was a guy on like the second floor, but Crystal Method. This is a greater find than I dared dream, Matt. Your usefulness never fails to impress me. Bit by bit, the tides of war will turn against the White Mantle, sweeping the way so that in time of peace may dawn and cry to. Pray we'll be there to see it, friend. Well, yeah, that's basically the War and Cry going on there, so go on, pray, she says. These shards are of astonishing quality, Matt. With an arrowhead such as this, I could rob a man of his life from a full league away. See, this is the one we've already read. He would hear nothing but the sound of his final breath. The shining blade is grateful. Allow. Do you hear the sound of your final breath? Do you hear the sound of you? I know that you, like, if they chop off your head, you still live for a little while, but do you hear the... Anyway, there we go. That's the black screen. I hope you guys enjoyed this dungeon video, and I will see you tomorrow. Once again, everybody's welcome to come. If you've never been before, feel free to come along. I always like to see new faces. And also, try and get as many elementalists together as possible. I mean... It'll be Saturday before this video goes up anyway, so I don't know how much me saying this will help, but, you know, it could be a lot of fun. Tomorrow it's Shards of Ore, which I know a few people have been looking forward to, so yeah, I will see you guys then. See you next time, everybody.